Heyo, duckies and dice fiends! Welcome in. We are starting tonight right as we are third co-host is here and getting cozy and introducing himself into the microphone. Thank you, Gilmore. Hello, welcome to 2026. I am so sorry we did not do the 2025 recap. Your friend got sick. And yeah, it wasn't gonna happen. Welcome on in. Thank you all so much for making 2025. I mean, I can't say it was a great year, but it was great in terms of this. It was wonderful. Welcome on in, Mental Lamia. And David, we are 2 followers away from 800.
Sweet. We'll get him.
We'll get him.
We'll get him.
If Gilmore doesn't
But
get him,
yes,
we will.
Happy New Year, such as it is, because boy howdy, did we get out of bed multiple days this year so far and like check the news and it's like absolutely the fuck not.
Yeah.
But thank you everybody. Last year was miserable. Like it was goddamn miserable for me. But also one of the most important years of my life, in terms of realizing how much how important the growth of my friend group and my social group is and was, and how wonderful the people in my life are. I was actually just talking to Kay in the green room about how your peer group and your friends represent who you are in a very real way. Hi, Matt.
Hey, Matt. Welcome on in, Raiders. We are just kicking off, and I just got kicked by Gilmore as he violently exited my arms. Cats.
But yeah, how your friend group after a certain age, your friend group and your peer group really represents an important part of who you are. And there was a time in my life where I was not happy with the people that I spent time with, and the people that I call friend and the people I associate with and the people I talk to on a regular basis, with Kay at the top of that list and all of you also on that list, I am extremely proud of. And I'm a little confused at how I ended up with such wonderful people in my life. But I am very, very, very happy that all of you are here, and that I get to know all of you.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us in 2026 as such that it is. Take care of yourselves, y'all. Water, stretch, manage your anxiety in whatever way you need to. Protest, but like don't tell people what, when, and where. All that good stuff.
Yeah. Don't narc on yourself.
Yeah, do not do the performative thing on social media. It will not end well for you or any of the people you're trying to help through your efforts. Hey, Nick, welcome on in. Thank you so much for the resub. 4 months. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yes, make all of the good trouble. So those of you who just came in missed Gilmore, who was on my shoulder and then in my arms and is now sitting just off camera, glaring daggers at me. You would think this guy had not been... yeah, he's going to break something. I feel it. I feel it coming. But welcome on it. It is 2026. This is the first episode of the Table Talk Show of the year. We are talking about a David topic, which is... I'm so worried about what this cat's going to do. Which is how to set your players up for roleplay. Oh my goodness, we got a hype trade. Rex, thank you. 41 months. Thank you for the resub, Rex. Welcome in. Y'all are so great. It is great to see you. And as I said, it is always... You all always make my Tuesdays better. I missed you all on the Tuesday when I was too sick to be able to stand for an hour and a half. Salamia, thank you for the cheers and the bits. Y'all. Uh, so we want to talk about, and this is a topic, and I have already warned David that I will try and go off topic on this, and we're going to stay focused because there are other topics. There are related
Right,
topics
because we
that we
stay
need to do
focused
a
on this
whole...
channel.
Look, yeah, but I try. Everyone here is so neurotypical that, you know.
Aw.
Lurking Rider, thank you for the 5 gift subs. Y'all are ridiculous. Also, Lurking Rider, please save your money for the potato. Please. Spiralax, thank you for the 5. Oh my goodness, y'all are so kind. Thank you, Spiralax, for the gift subs, for the 5 gift subs. Y'all, level 4, I can't even I can't talk about this right now, but I've had a day, and I used all of my wording to write the kindest way I could write an unkind letter. Hey, Zeal, welcome on in. And I've lost all of my words, so y'all are making it even more difficult for me to verb after my brain has already considers my monthly luxury spend. It's going to be the best. Thank you, Lurking Rider. You are the
And
best.
also, luckily for Kay, that I am an unskippable cutscene. So, you know, whenever Kay doesn't have verbs, I got plenty of words for everybody. And an extra commentary about the generosity of this community. Obviously, I had a fundraiser last year, hit our goals. Thank you, everyone. But also on my social media feed, not just on Blue Sky, but in other places as well. Not Twitter, because I don't Twitter.
We don't mess with that.
But I have seen it's disheartening to see so many, hey, I need to make rent. Hey, I need medical expenses. Hey, I need life stuff. Please help. But it is very heartening to see that every single one of those asks for charity that I've seen on social media has met their goals. And I know that a lot of people in our community contribute to them as well. And as someone who is not in a position to contribute to things, it really warms my heart that people who can give and people who can't want to. So I appreciate y'all, not just for me and not just for Kay, but for all of the good that you do in the greater community as well.
So today, speaking of verbing, we are going to verb about how to make other people verb at your table when you are not verbing.
Yeah. So what happens is sometimes you have players and the players don't verb. It's funny because one of the people, so at PAX, Kay had a panel. I was there, and then after, we're giving out goodie bags and whatnot. We're giving out the proxy magic cards, and then people came up to me and asked me questions, and I was like, I wasn't on the panel, but luckily you've asked the right person, because I have tons of advice about everything. See the 100+ episodes in our catalog of advice that we give people.
You have advice and no opinions.
Right, yeah. I have had precisely one opinion. It was 1997, and it was the worst 15 minutes of my life. No. But one of the questions I was asked was, hey, I have a player that seems like they're having a really good time, seems like they're really interested, but they don't like talk a whole lot. And doesn't really like role play, and how do I like get that going? And it's funny that I'm remembering it now, because Kay and I, so for one, every good idea we've had on the talk show has been Kay's idea, and every bad idea we've had on the talk show has been my idea. So jot that down. But also, in addition to that, whenever Kay and I have a topic, for the most part, either earlier in the week or in the green room before the show, we have like a little talk about like what points we're going to cover and whatnot, because we're professionals. Okay. We don't just get on here and wing it. Um, but um, and in my discussion with Kay about today's topic, I did not remember that interaction at PAX until I was just telling y'all about it. Um, but you'll have situations where you'll have a player that is either like, you know, very like very into the game and um you know, really dedicated to what you're doing and having fun. We're not talking about people who are at your table and who are bored and uninterested. And keep in mind, there's a difference between bored and uninterested and someone who needs to keep their fingies and their eyes busy while they're paying attention. Because like there's a meme among the neurodivergents, especially the autistics, where it's like, I can either give you direct eye contact or I can pay attention to what you're saying. I can't do both. Don't ask me to do both. I'm not going to do both. Um, and One of the most important classes I ever took was this little class with these special instructors who showed up, and they taught nonviolent communication. And I learned a bunch of like really interesting things that 16, 17-year-old me really took away from that. But one of the most important things was they showed up to class and they had pipe cleaners, and they put the pipe cleaners in the center of the table, and they're like, everybody grab a pipe cleaner. And so we grab a pipe cleaner, and then they're like, all right, if you want to fidget, play with the pipe cleaner. Like if you want to because studies have shown that doing something with your hands while you're listening to someone, while you're listening to something, improves your cognition and your recall. Like it makes you a better listener when you're fidgeting with stuff. So if you're like me and you're GMing and you see people you know, on your Zoom screen or on your Discord screen, or you're at a table in real person and someone's like face down in their phone and like flipping through stuff, or they're like digging, that doesn't mean they're not paying attention. And you can tell the difference between someone who is fidgeting because their brain is keeping track of what you're doing and someone who is uninterested and unengaged. I've told this story before, and I understand that I'm ranting, but I've told this story before, that there was a player at one of my home games where we get to the end of character creation and he like looks at his character sheet, then he looks at me and he looks at his character sheet, and then he hands it to me. He's like, can you keep this for me? And I'm like, sure. He's like, because if I take it, it's going to get lost and then I'm going to have to make it again. And then whenever he'd show up, he was always minimum half an hour late. Whenever he was there, he was down in his phone. And also he had like a very stressful job at the time. So like there were multiple times where what determined when we took our breaks during that session was there was a business call on a Saturday afternoon he had to take. That said, he is one of the most engaged players I've ever had, and one of the most animated and one of my favorite people to play with, because one, he always brought awesome snacks. Like some of the finest goods the Trader Joe's have ever churned out showed up to our game, and he's like, here. But also he really loved the game and really loved his character and really loved not just the other players but the other characters, and was really invested in the storyline. And like years later, because we only played like 6 or 7 sessions, years later I'll be talking to him and he'll be like, hey, remember when this happened in that game? I'm like, I'm glad that this was like a formative enough experience where years later you're still like thinking about it. But we're specifically talking about people who you want to engage more fully with in the game, and specifically not just with you but with other players. um, and the first and most important piece of advice I can give you is talk to your player. Like, don't like when you're in between sessions, before the session, after the session, talk to them, check in with them, see if they're having a good time. I've told this story before, but I had a player where like the first like 3 combat encounters, that motherfucker went down. Like I crunched him. Like I crunched him, and my little evil heart was like, yes. But then like the angel on my shoulder was like, you really need to stop picking on him. And so I checked in with him like, hey, I need you to know I'm not picking on you, for one. Like there are times when I fudge my rolls, but like random bandit encounter 3 is not when I'm fudging my rolls. Like you get what you get. But also, in addition to that, how are you feeling? Are you having a good time? If there are changes you want to make, do you want changes? And he's like, oh no, I'm having a great time. This such and such happened, and such and such happened, and that was really funny. And my interaction with, so I'm like, okay, so you're having a good time. And I'm like, hey, so you're going down a lot. And he's like, I have a thought about this. And I'm like, oh. And then we end up like chit chatting. And then I come up with not just a whole storyline, but a whole new god that's going to end up in another system that we're working on. All because he just kept almost dying. And the god was like, I think you're pretty neat, which is, you know, how warlocks are made.
True.
So yeah, so your first step, make sure that you talk to your players. And there's so many because we've all either seen like a YouTube video or read a post on Reddit about some RPG horror story where some dude does a thing and it's awful and you're like, Jesus Christ. Like what would possess a human being to do this? And then the person like, you know, telling the story is like, and then it gets worse. And it's like, how could it get worse? And then it gets way worse. And sure, like some of them are made up, some of them are AI now, but we all know shit like that happens in real life. And so many problems in the TTRPG community on the personal level, like at your table, can be resolved if you just had a conversation with a person. And that is an important first step because like Kay and I we haven't kicked anyone out of our groups because Kay is excellent at casting, but we've both been part of productions and Kay has been part of productions where Kay has gone, this is a problem player, I am not down with it. And at one point, we had to go to the GM and be like, listen, if you don't do something about this, we're both gone. You're losing half of your table. And low key, you're losing the only interesting people at your table. So jot that the fuck down. And then, you know, they booted the player and then we had sort of a good time because, you know, the game was also kind of shit, but that's a whole different conversation. Kay and I had a good, look, if Kay and I are in a place, we're going to have a good time. We could be in a prison camp on Mars and we're going to have a good time. It's going to be miserable, but we're going to have a good time.
I'm going to make your good time less good. Rex said he had a contrarian guy who was playing a centaur, and whenever the party members asked him anything, all he would say was nay. And Lurking Rider wants to know how stable the group dynamic was after that.
Because the problem with that is if a centaur is a half man and a half horse, then that means that the half horse part could be the head part. And so now the question, is it like a minotaur, but with a horse head where it's just like neck up and then like body of human, head of horse? Or is it like belly button up like the way it is with like the usual version of centaur where it's like two horse hooves, like long ass horse hooves, and then like baby human legs on the back end. Like
Futurama with the mermaids.
Oh, yeah. And it's so...
It worked out. Turns out he was shy and not used to being heard.
Hey now. He
is for horses, not centaurs.
But if it's a reverse centaur, then maybe hay is for centaurs.
But yes, you know, David has, I just dealt with the situation and David just referenced the situation. We're having a conversation with the person. Wouldn't have worked. And that's sometimes a thing, but like starting
to be clear, a conversation was had.
It's true.
And and again, that's an important first step because again, with the problem player we were talking about, we were like, hey, Jim, go talk to this guy because he's being a guy all over our game. And so he went and talked to him, and I'm 100% sure he did use the right words to convey our intent. But still, in his defense, he went and had the conversation, and then the guy doubled down and was a worse jackass, and then had to go. But again, the conversation was had, and that's an important first step.
Yes. Uh, so yes, conversation. Sometimes, and as David has, hey, now you're a centaur. Get your feet on, eat hay. Uh, there are some players. So, David and I were just discussing. We were in a game where, it was hold on. Me, him, them, 5 of us total? Or was there a 6th player? I think it was just the 5.
No. It was 5 players in the GM.
Yeah. Out of the 5 players at the table, there were really 3 players at the table.
Mm-hmm.
There were 2 people who were there every session, but they didn't really do much or interact much. But they were there and engaged and paying attention. And one person, if you triggered the right thing, they would completely derail into an unskippable cutscene of whatever niche knowledge they had. And honestly, that was great. Because the 3 big personalities got to kind of do their thing. And how do you set up your players to roleplay, especially when they're not necessarily role players? Well, part of that is working with the bigger personalities at your table, because at one point, my character ended up finding a bunch of flowers and was like, these flowers are really cool. Turns out they were flowers grown off of dead people. They were flowers that only grew on dead people, and my character had a vague idea of this, but didn't exactly elaborate on that, and went and collected the flowers. And instead of giving them to the person they had been accidentally courting, gave them to the druid. Because druids like flowers. And while it's not necessarily in character for my character to forget that, the character I've been trying very hard to befriend, read woo, they didn't realize that's what they were doing, has a book of pressed flowers, it was a more interesting choice to give it to the other character and start not necessarily some beef, but a conversation with this person. This character gets the whole conversation, and then the character who expected to be given the flowers had to sit there and go, oh, well, what does that mean? And does that mean that these two... So a part of it is working with your table, because there is a difference between... Yes, an unskippable cutscene of niche knowledge is many of our brains. There is a difference between, I am a quieter player, I will step in and roleplay when the spotlight is put on me. Otherwise, I am happy to sit back and let the more roleplay intense people take the lead. And, gee, I would really like to get a word in, but everyone else is taking up so much time and space that I just kind of have to sit here because I'm just being drowned out. And that's a fun thing to moderate as a GM.
Yeah. And first off, the first elephant in the room, and it's something that I'm guilty of, is when you're doing your exposition, when you're laying down your world, you've spent so much time thinking about your world, putting things together, thinking up character names, which is 90% of my world building, is coming up with character names. I need you to know, I'm so terrible with names that, 90, like 90% is like, hey, Kay, I need a name for this character. And then Kay gives me like 20 names, and I'm like, none of those are right. I'll get back to you. And then like a week later, I'm like, all right, I finally have the name. And then she's like, so how long? I'm like, the whole week. All 7 days I've been working on this. I literally have a draft of an email that is just names. Like names that I found cool or appropriate that I thought would be good for a character that I then put into a list. And then I separated out all of the lists that begin, or all of the names that begin with the letter A, because for some reason, names that begin with the letter A are my favorite. And I don't know why. I just like the way they sound. So that is all filtered out and in a separate list where it's like, okay, I've named 5 characters. I can give myself an A name as a treat. Um, but um, I had a thought and it's
World
gone.
building, you've built it all up, and then you get to the
Oh,
table.
yeah. Yeah. So what I am guilty of, and what you need to be careful of, is immediately launching into a 60-minute, 75-minute feature length film like exposition about whatever setting that you've put them in, because I will sit you there for half an hour and describe the tavern to you. It is a tavern like any other. However, comma, I
It is
know
mine.
every detail of that place.
Yeah.
Right.
This tavern is mine. There are many like it.
Right. And because so like one of the big differences between Kay and I is Kay um has a bunch of aspects of their personality that show up as characters in their head, and then they're all very noisy. And my brain is very calm, very tranquil. There's usually only one thing on my brain, which I am not going to say. um but I have a like big cast of NPCs in my head. They are not me. Well, correction. And this is a very niche thing, and it circles back to an age-old conversation in video games, is dudes who play women in video games. And there's an argument of, oh, you're an egg about to crack. Um, and then there's also the argument of, well, if I am a straight guy, why am I going to spend the next 200 hours looking at a really buff dude when I can look at an attractive woman? Um, but I have, because I'm terrible at naming things, I have a list of characters that I bring to different games in different worlds. But outside of that, I have a bunch of NPCs in my head. Um, and so I have been in conversations between my NPCs. At one point in a home game, I had 3 NPCs talking to one another, while the 4 people who were sitting there trying to play D&D watched me have a conversation with myself for like 20 fucking minutes. Don't do that.
Rick says, "This is my tavern.
Uh,
This is my inn. The latter's for sleeping, the former's for gin."
Amen. Amen. But so yeah, like, when you're doing it, try to, the first step, make sure you're leaving room for your players to play, to role play, to be involved, to help you shape the story. um Again, one of the big mistakes I made a while ago was I conjured up a character that I was like, oh, this person's going to be really into this NPC, and then I told them a bunch about the character and they were like, eh. And I was like, oh man, did I swing and miss? And then after that, I forget where we heard, but we heard the bit of advice of like, go in, have your character see the person, and then have have your player describe what the person looks like and what kind of person they are, so that you know that they're attracted to them. And I'm like, yeah, that's such a good idea. But it also, in addition to like, you know that your player is going to be invested in that NPC, it's also a really great way to um allow your players, or to make room for your players to help shape the world that all of you are building together.
In a tavern in a small town, downhill from a mine, lived a barkeep, who'd your gold reap, and his daughter Serpentine. Says Zeal. Here is the drink. Here is your room. Indulge in the former, then sleep till it's noon. I love this. Hot tape, stop prepping so much, says Mentalamia. Leave gaps for your players to fill in. Is really vital, actually. So, as I think most of you know, I love playing in long campaigns. I like running shorter campaigns. And I think I liked this before I started watching Dimension 20, but Dimension 20 really kind of like solidified it for me, and that like I love Godplane because it is short, it's to the point. There's a definite beginning, there's a definite end, and the story is actually what happens in the middle. And David and I do a ton of prep for that, but a lot of that prep is simply because it is a shorter, self-contained thing. I have to talk to players. I have to know what your character is. I have to know what they want. I have to know their trauma. I have to know what themes you're wanting to explore with them. And I want to know what is their happy ending and what is their not happy ending. And I need to have at least some idea of that before I even sit down to start incorporating you into the campaign, because it is a shorter on rails thing. And so, yes, for your long-term campaigns, yes, sit back, do less prep, let your character start guiding the way. In fact, I just recently watched a documentary on Critical Role Campaign 3 and why it didn't seem to click for a lot of people. And that was, even Matt Mercer talks a lot about, you need to build your campaign around your characters. You need to shape your campaign. Like, if David and I are running, especially a short-term thing on stream, we're like, here are the pillars. Here's what you're going to be exploring. Bring a character that matches this. I don't think that level of conversation was had with Campaign 3 because none of the characters were terribly invested in the world or the plot that they ended up, like, pursuing. And it just all felt very discombobulated isn't the word, but you know, there's a solid tip from B. Dave: have the player describe what they think is the most attractive. Exactly. So yeah, brevity is the soul of wit, and a good ending is underrated these days, or at least not enough people try to make one. It's not exactly what I mean, but at 2:30 in the morning, that's what came out. Yeah, look, I love a heroic sacrifice. I love a happy ending. I love a tragic ending. But if I am playing a game of scoundrels, I don't necessarily want the take the moral high road happily ever after. If I am playing a hero, I probably want them to either get a happy ending or to heroically self-sacrifice. If I'm playing a hero and, okay, we're gonna go do a morally gray down spiral campaign, I need to know that before we get into the campaign, or else I'm not going to be happy because I brought the wrong character for that story. And we're getting
I
off topic.
specifically have a character I play that is a bad guy. He is not a good guy. Part of his long rest is a percentage chance to go find somebody to murder. Like, he will find somebody in a dark alley and then he's got more teeth in his bag. Like, and it hasn't happened yet, but one of the things that I've thought is there are campaigns where you have stretches where your players don't get a long rest, and one of the things that will impact yeah, it is the tooth guy. One of the things that will impact him in not getting a bunch of long rests or being isolated from civilization for too long is he doesn't have anybody to go murder, so he starts getting stabbed. Um, but and also, like, this is why I particularly enjoy cyberpunk, is because one of the hallmarks of cyberpunk is there is no happy ending. You get to the end of that thing and everybody's not having a good time, and I something about that is like deeply cathartic for me, because like you're watching it and then, like, you know, 2 or 3 episodes before the end, or like 100 pages before the book is done, you have like this really sweet heartfelt moment between the protagonist and like a love interest, or like a protagonist and like the best friend, and you're like, oh man, this is so sweet. If I just close this book, if I turn off the TV, then they live happily forever after in my head, and then you keep going.
We really need to get you to play Trophy Dark. That's one of
Yeah,
those games where it's like, if you live, you were probably worse off than if you died.
right. But Kay and I have been on both sides of the spectrum in terms of pre-game character development. Because for Godplane, we I'd argue we schedule God playing out further than any other games that we play because we don't just need to know who you're playing. We need to know what your background is, and then we also need you to talk to other players so that y'all can figure out what your connections are, so that we can then build infrastructure like 60 to 70% of the game around those themes. And then also your character needs to be on theme with the major pillars that we have in the storytelling because it has to be a tale of redemption. You are not a prototypical hero. You are actually the bottom dregs of the heroes. Um, and so we've had that where it's like 3 months in advance, people get us their characters and then we get to work. But then we've also had multiple times now, we'll run a charity game and then somebody gets in 20 minutes before and is like, yeah, I should probably figure out what class I'm playing. And it's like, yeah, you should probably figure out what class you're playing. And they're like, well, I'll play blah, 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 and do this. And again, and another hallmark is those people are all professionals who have played a lot of TTRPGs, who are accustomed to that. And so they either have a character that is old and dear to their heart that they could just slip into and it's no problem, or they're very good at coming up with a character on the spot, thinking up all the things they need to think about it, and then executing that character very well. We've never had a charity game where someone was bad. Like, and we've never had a charity game where someone was unprofessional. Like, love all of our charity players. Um, but it's also like from a design perspective, as GMs, it's a very different approach to, hey, so you built these combat encounters and now somebody has counterspell, now somebody has silence, now somebody has speak with animals, versus, you have 3 months to like work on this and really like dig into not just the abilities of the characters, but also the intents and um and directions that the characters will go, and then integrate that into the overall storytelling in addition to the combat design.
Um, and so, one of the reasons if you're having players who aren't really role playing is that maybe they're not attached to the world, embedded in the world. More than once, I've been in a game where I have my character, I'm ready to play, and then the GM um, just changes the tone of the campaign, or we thought we knew what we were getting into, and it's something completely different, and not in a good way. Which, look, I love curveballs, and this is a whole thing that I want to go on and talk about because there's also a Twitter thread about this, which is like, I have been in a lot of games where I have been like, I'm restless, I'm kind of bored, this game isn't grabbing me at all. Why is this game not connecting? Whereas all the other players are like, yeah, that was great. And the way I finally ticked it out was it felt like I was playing a point and click video game where it was like, here are these locations, interaction here, interaction here. And it was just kind of very bleh. Whereas the GMs that I love, we get on the same wavelength and we are dropping hints and we are storytelling and we are building off each other. And that is the kind of vibe that I need. Whereas I've seen some really incredible role players, some really great players who are like, put me in a space. If the description is dry, I'll take care of it, right? So you kind of have to figure out what do your players need, and then one of the reasons they might not be interacting is maybe they're not connecting with the world or the story. And an easy way around that is, obviously one is a conversation. Are you having fun? What do you need? Whereas other ones are, other ways around it are like, okay, we're in game. You have a dream where you see, you do a Baldur's Gate 3. You have a dream and you see, someone very important to your past. You see, what do they look like? Who is this person? And curveballs can at least be interesting or dodged. Rug pulls aren't generally liable to land as fun. Yeah. Hi, Chrysicon. Welcome on in. So yeah. conversations, and then just inviting people into helping shape the world, because I've definitely been in games where I'm like, we're just being pulled along, or we're just being given dots on the map. And what we do doesn't actually matter that much because we can't actually impact the world around us.
So it's okay to talk about upcoming plot points with your players. And you don't necessarily have to talk to all of them, but for all of like the relevant involved players, it's okay to like, you don't have to spring it on them. You don't have to surprise them. You can just be like, hey, so in this upcoming battle, there's a chance, like we can, there are three options. You know, we do it the normal hero way and you win and then you ride off into the sunset. Um, you could betray your party and work with the big bad, or you can die a tragic death. What do you think would be most fun? And then they could be like, oh, um, then I want to have like the epic tragic death. And you're like, sweet, that's what we're gonna do. You don't spring this on a player. And of course, I I've said many times on channel, when I design combat encounters outside of charity games, but when I design combat encounters, they are set up for you to use every tool available to you to overcome that encounter, because if you don't, you might die. And of course, I play with a bunch of brilliant people, and so I go, oh man, I designed this really tough encounter, it's good. And then somebody walks in and is like, I cast silence on this area, you said there was a cliff there, I blow that cliff off, avalanche kills all the people, one round, we're done, moving on. And I'm like, god damn it.
I cast Life Bubble at the 3rd level.
Right. It's like I cast so and so's tiny hut. We escape from the mob, and I'm just like, the stat tables that I put together for the giant mob that you were supposed to fight. Um, but uh, but it's okay to talk to your players about that before,
Right.
because if you just spring a tragic death on a character and they're like, I didn't think I was going to die here, or if you have like a warlock and then you're like, by the way, your patron is calling in that favor and needs you to betray everyone, you're going to feel really shitty as a GM and as a player when you then turn around and stab all your friends in the back. Or you and here's another thing, you could say to that warlock, hey, so in this upcoming big fight, your patron is going to be like, hey, betray all your friends. So you have a choice. You could either turn on all of your friends, or you could tell them to go fuck yourself, and then your god is going to have a problem. And that could be a really interesting story for your player to unfold, especially if they're like, I'll think about it and then I'll decide at the moment. Because then you, and of course you got to prep, if they betray everyone, what's going to happen? And then if they don't betray everyone and they turn their back on their god, what's going to happen? And you know, and it's more work for you, but that gives you an unknown element, something to anticipate, something to think about, and then you're surprised. But you don't need to.
I was going to say, I was talking to David about this in campaign 4 with Brennan as the GM for Critical Role. What he's doing is everyone reaches the point where he's like, you have earned your level up. He doesn't tell everyone, cool, now you're all level whatever. They have a character level up session. They all sit down and he goes, okay, you know, you're leveling up. What are you multi-classing? You staying with that class? Cool, roll your hit dice. Cool, that's your new thing. You're going to get this feature. You're going to get this many spells. You don't have to decide what they are now, right? Do you think you're taking a feat? What feats are you considering? So he gets a vague idea of like, these are the spells they might choose. These are the feats they might have. Like, this is what's coming. And then he tells them at any point in the upcoming sessions, you can now level up and in real time gain access to those abilities. You are this level, but level it up when it is thematically appropriate for you, when it is fitting for your character. And then you already have the idea of, I'm thinking of these 3 spells, but this one's more healy, and this one's more, you know, protect my friends, and this one's more murder hobo. And whatever happens in the moment can help shape that, because what you decide at level up might not be how you feel when you watch your best friend go down in the middle of combat. And I love that, and I'm stealing it. I am just yoinking that so hard. And again, it gives players a little bit more narrative control and more control over their characters, more control over their circumstances, and then it gives them something to discuss both between session and in session when the player is aware, oh, they were going to take mobile. Oh no, they took Shieldmaster instead. What does that say about the character, right? And I really like that as a cool, like, after session talk this out, because without giving away secrets, it gives you an insight into your other players and their mindset for their characters and what their characters are going through in a way that not everyone can always express during roleplay. And then that opens the door for the more roleplay prone character or more roleplay prone players to like reach out to those other characters and be like, talk to me, or hey, you did this, that was really cool. Yeah, I'm nerding over that big time.
And one of the most exciting things for me to experience as GM is a player will message me and be like, so I was talking to other member of the party about blah blah blah, and I'm like, no, wait, you're talking about my game to another human being outside of the confines of our, you know, every other week session? Excuse me. And
by the way, if I am at all
just
invested in your game, I'm that person. I'm starting every
Yeah.
one of those conversations. I am obnoxious. Lurking Writer has seen at least a glimpse of some of this.
Also, if Kay is in your game and Kay likes your game, I hear about your game. And to be clear, it's all good things. Kay and I are very careful to only shit talk the absolute worst people that we know. However, so if Kay is talking about your game to me, Kay is having a good time at your game. Full stop. Because there have been times where Kay is like, oh yeah, I got a game coming up. And then like the game will happen. And I'll message Kay and I'll be like, so how was it? And Kay will be like, it was fine. And I'm like, oh no, Kay's miserable. The fact that it didn't trigger a like 2-hour long, like furiously typing or like, hey, get on a call, I have to tell you about this. That means Kay's not. Now, also, very luckily, I'd argue that most of the games that Kay ends up in, Kay is having a good time. But they can't all be winners, and that's fine.
Also,
And-
it is my job to look like I'm having a good time. So
Right.
if you see me and I look like I'm not having a good time, I am miserable.
Mm,
I was
yeah.
in a game with a friend, and it was bad. It was so bad. It was layers of bad. And friend is like, it was a paid game too. And friend was like, hey, looks like they're having a great time. And I'm like, Kay's being paid to look like they're having a great time.
Look, you know Kay is having a horrendous time when I message them mid-game, be like, you good, fam? Like, are you okay? Did you break your ankle? Are your intestines in a knot? Because you look goddamn miserable. And Kay just hits you with the, let me out! Let me out! But like I said, again, it does not happen often. Most of the games that
Very
Kay
rare.
gets into are really great. I'm always jealous when Kay is in a game that they enjoy because I'm like, man, I need to do better. But
Hey, I'm in 2 games with you that I enjoy.
right. And we hope that continues. But
Back on topic.
yes. And that leads is a good segue to my next point of like, yeah, step 1, make sure that you aren't just monologuing the whole time. Oh, and also if you play through a campaign, whether it's a one shot or a short series or a long campaign, and you get to the big bad, and the big bad finally struts out, cape billowing, evil laugh, don't counterspell that motherfucker. Don't cast silence on him. Let your GM do their evil monologue, because I guarantee you that your GM has been thinking about that evil monologue for the entirety of the game. Like, I know with our home game is what, like 3 years old now or something like that?
More than that.
I have the end game villain monologue in my head. I can recite it like the opening to the Samurai Jack TV show, okay? It's in there. And I don't care what happens, what anybody tries to do when we get there, when we finally get there, I'm reciting that whole motherfucking thing. I'm not locked in here with you, you're locked in here with me. So if you're GM, if you get to the end and you're in the big bag, please take a step back and let the GM download all of that bullshit on you, because it's been simmering this whole time.
I need
Let
Roxy,
him have that moment.
I need Roxy to get reverse talk to animals, where I can make you quack like a duck for the whole thing. It's just.
If you hit me with the speak like Peanuts adult spell, I will get into a car and illegally drive to your house, and you will meet me on the front lawn.
I did almost ruin a game for a poor GM, and I didn't know what the end goal was. I thought I was doing, this was not a deliberate troll, but like there was a forced marriage happening, and like we roll up as someone is saying, like, anyone who objects, speak now or forever hold your peace. And I shout, I object because you're a frog, and cast polymorph. Big Pack was a frog. ATC.
Doinks.
But yes.
Also, I'm reminded that I am, one of the things that I'm writing is a wedding. I got too many modules I have to fucking develop.
GM wasn't hopping mad. GM was just defeated. GM was like, so I failed the save. So this just happens. I can't. And then he's like,
the way I would fudge that fucking roll.
Yeah, well, like, because he thought he got a save after, but once you fail polymorph, right?
Yeah, you're just fucked.
And so he's like, can I just say that? And I'm like, yeah. End your game. Like, it was the end of a one-shot, right? Like, I thought we were about to go into a big fight. No, it wasn't a combat ending. So I'm like, yeah, no, it was a riveting experience. Yes. The frog did not croak. They lived on. But so one of the other, we are all the way back to this. We are almost an hour into this discussion, and we're back to the thing that David opened with. But one of my favorite ways, and look, it does require a certain type of player, but if you have that type of player, there is nothing more empowering than, like, before the session, you sit down with the player and you're like, okay, you're a wizard. What is your wizarding school like, right? What is what is this like? You are a druid. What is your, druid circle like? What is, and we do see this a lot in, like, okay, we're opening up. We see you in your home. What does your home look like? But it can go so much beyond that, because, like, okay, you've been trekking through the woods. You stumble into the circle that is where the druid party member came from. So-and-so, tell us, what is this? Right? Or, hey, so-and-so, I sent you notes, I sent you notes beforehand of, like, this is what the Thieves Guild is like. It's in your documents if you remember. If you don't remember, I'm going to copy paste it into Discord, information that you would have that you can share. And the more you empower your players of, like, this is information that no role required. This is the place you're from. Tell us what it's like. If you've done that pre-game communication, it is, nothing excites a player more than being like, this is my turf, step back. And that way the GM isn't monologuing for 30 minutes. You've got a player describing, and then the other players are like, what's it? And then you can step in and clarify or pick up an NPC as need be. You're a druid. What's your druid circle like? Not Ecludian. You're not a warlock. Dang it.
And that's another really good step you can take is I hope by now that all of you are design. Okay, so in storytelling, and I believe it was Kurt Vonnegut when he was teaching, but came up with the concept of, or first espoused the concept of the shape of stories. Like your stories can be a down up, like Hero's Journey is down up. You start at like your standard JRPG, like your Final Fantasy is you start as a kid in a small town and at the end you fight God. Um, which I could appreciate. But your story could be down up. It could be down up down. Like Cyberpunk is down up down 100% of the time. It could be up down, and it's just like long slow slide into awfulness. Um, but that chart, that XY graph isn't just one line, because you have the overall arc of your story and then you have the arc of your individual characters. And if you're really good at storytelling, then even if it isn't necessarily portrayed in the game, all of your NPCs also have a story and they have goals and they have machinations and they're all the different things that they're doing behind the scenes. It's one of the secrets of having a world that is lived in is it could be Konami shaped, up, up, down, down, left, right, start.
Well done. Will be better.
Um, ah, it is especially poignant given Kay's current employment. Um, but uh, but yeah, so like one of the ways you can make a world feel lived in is you like when your players go do something, chart at least in your head what happens, what other people do when they are away. um and even it could be just like the person who owns the tavern gets up, orders more beer, serves patrons, does dishes, go to bed, but you're still thinking about the world living and breathing outside of what your characters are doing. And that's one of the big differences between TTRPGs and like an RPG video game is the NPC is waiting for you to bring back like the kobold bones the whole time. Like they're just standing there waiting. Like in one of the games I run, the what the I think the first major one of the first major quests they went on was looking for someone who had gone missing, and it connected to a big storyline where I had to like invent a whole new god and do a bunch of other stuff. But one of the things that I'm not sure the players ever discovered is that so like the players discovered that quest was decades old, that the guy that put up that quest of his young wife that had gone missing was now an old man and still trying to get people to go look for her. But what they don't know is that many people went looking for her, including someone recently, and they all failed. Because the world is lived in, like the quests on the board aren't just for your adventurers, they're for everyone. And someone else is going to be like, I could use some coin. I'm going to go and kill these rats in the sewer.
But we're
I'm
also
going to go
talking
adopt
about
one.
making players role play. So we're going to focus on that.
Yes. And here I was thinking I'd have to reel you back. But yeah, so you should be building stories for each of your characters. And part of building those stories is, like Kay said, giving them an opportunity to talk about things in their lives, things in their past. It could be like we said, going to the Druid Circle. It could be you walk into a tavern and your old arch nemesis is sitting there, or your long lost love is sitting there, or your cousin that you have beef with is sitting there. Or it could be, hey, there's a bounty on your head. And then you give your players a long rest so they can sit around the campfire and go, so those bounty hunters that we fought off, you want to tell us about that? But definitely give your characters, give your players a chance to not just talk about their characters, but to give a window into the lives and histories and desires and goals of your players.
Lurking Rider says Chekhov's Kobold Skull. If it doesn't turn out to be the key to defeating the ancient red dragon in the third act, what was even the point of it?
Right.
Yes. And the other cool thing that you can do is, this is my favorite thing to do in Godplane. My favorite thing to do in just about any game that I'm on is like, how do you tie two characters' backstories together? When does it turn out that, without spoiling too much, the Critical Role wedding one shot. It brought together, it featured a nemesis, an enemy, who had ties to 3 different party members, who had fucked up the lives of 3 different party members. In a game that David's running, it turns out that my paladin and the warlock might be serving the same entity. That's cool. But like even something as simple as in the horror game, I play a good old folk who's obviously religious, because I don't think you could be a good old folk from the South and not be about God, guns, and country. They're definitely about guns and country, so they got to be about the God too. And one of the new characters who came in was a servant of the church, and it gave us immediately, like, the GM knew that would be a very easy way for my character to go, oh, come into the party. We have something to talk about. We have something in common. So that's also something that you can reach out to someone ahead of time of like, hey, so-and-so, has been kind of quiet, or, so-and-so has this quest arc that I would really like to get into. They're not really pursuing it. It's related to this. Could you maybe talk to them about this? Is there a way, or hey, so-and-so, I really want to, like, the next arc is going to focus on you or your character or this aspect of your character. Is there another character that you think they would open up to about this? And kind of, even if you're not forcing it to happen in game, having those conversations and planting that seed is actually a way of facilitating the players to go and do that. Because, it doesn't always work. Soul was the shadiest shademonger who ever kept all of their secrets close to their vest. I expected them to share so much more information than they did at many points, and eventually had to, like, drag it out of them. But there were also a couple moments where if anyone had just poked at any one of those things, Soul would have spilled the beans so much earlier. So, talk to people. I've definitely reached out to people and been like, hey, if I do this to maybe start this conversation, is that cool? And you as a GM can also kind of point other players at each other to do that. What are paladins but warlocks that just haven't bent the knee? What are warlocks if not paladins who blinked incorrectly and accidentally broke/corrupted their oaths? I don't have opinions on D&D video games, obviously, with the strict adherence to rules. What are you talking about? My himbo lore bard grew up with the sorcerer in the party, and they were dumb kids thrown into the adventure, and it really worked. Yeah. Sometimes just facilitating a, like, hey, you two characters are meeting first. You two characters are meeting first. So you two will know each other, and you two will know each other when the party comes together. So even if you didn't grow up together, you two have, even if it's a couple days more history than the others, it's kind of what they did with beginning of campaign 2, where certain characters knew each other and had backstory. And it kind of makes the party and thus the world feel more lived in, more real and solid. And then you get to do fun behind the scenes. Hey, let's do a quick RP of how we met.
A quick side note, and I know that we have been sidetracked, and by we being sidetracked, I mean me, but the difference between a paladin and a warlock is a warlock absolutely has a patron. The magic comes from somewhere, the magic comes from the patron. Patron doesn't have to be a god, just has to have magic power that they can confer onto the warlock. A paladin does not have to have a god. The paladin's magic can come from faith alone, which means there could be no great daddy in the sky, and the paladin is still pressing the smite button with all the spooky magic on it. And I find that utterly delightful and fascinating, especially especially if that paladin breaks their oath. Because
Uh,
it's like, who you break an oath to?
and I talk about this a lot, but Unsleeping City is one of my favorite TTRPG campaigns of all time. And Zach Oyama plays a firefighter who is a paladin, and he doesn't have a god, it's just his civic duty. He is literally powered by his civic duty.
And we
Could be Big
appreciate
Mama
people
in the
in real
sky
life.
if that's your thing. We don't judge. Exactly. Look, everyone wants a Big Mama who can give them uppies.
Unfortunately, that is correct. No matter what your orientation,
In
that
one of the
that's on
games
the
I'm
list of
playing,
desirables.
in one of the games I'm playing that I'll get to talk about, another player was playing like a big lady, and I knew she was going to be a big Goliath. But I had to reach out after the first session because I'm like, okay, so number one, I didn't expect my character would be. I knew they'd be friendly. They're being a little flirty. Are you okay with that? Number two, they might ask for uppies. Are you okay with that? Like, it's just look at her. Look at her. Fellowship of the Ring, each of the 9 knew a certain amount of the others before the Council of Elrod, but definitely not the whole group. Yes. You show me the person who can give me uppies, please, says Matt.
Listen, if any of y'all know like a 6'7", 6'8" muscle mommy, let me know, because I'd have the wildest birthday present for that.
This is the slight aside, but I got to very briefly chat with Lady D's voice actor after the Game Awards. Dressed to the nines, by the way. My conversation was like, your outfit, like, I'm not taking up any more of your time, but all of this, yes. And then I walked away because that was for me, not for her. But yeah, Dave and I played around a little bit with this. I'm going to implement it more in a different way than what David has done. But one of the things I really like that is a little bit stolen, it's something I'd wanted to do before, and it was a little bit stolen. Dimension 20 did it in their steampunk thing. But I love the idea of coming in with rumors about certain other characters, and you don't necessarily know if they're true. But it also, again, encourages that role play and that, like, you have heard this about this person. So you can either just comment like, oh yeah, you can do that, right? Because you did that back at this thing. But also, it can be a moment of like, hey, I heard that you used to do this, but then you got like excommunicated. Or like, hey, why are you pretending to be dirt poor? We all know that you're wealthy. And that can open up a lot of role play opportunities there. Oh, goodness. Ugh.
And one of the things in our test game we're running is what Kay was talking about, is like 2 truths and a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Give me something that the people can gossip about. And what I find particularly hilarious is one of my players gave me 2 pages of 2 truths and a lie. Haven't filled out all the spells on their spell sheet yet. 2 pages of truths and a lie.
Yes.
And so they'll like the party will wander somewhere, and again, I am now in the position of having multiple NPCs talking to each other, but then they'll talk about the rumor. And the absolute delight of letting go one of those rumors, knowing if it's a truth or a lie or not, and then watching all the players at the table kind of like look at each other and then be like, are you gonna ask them or am I gonna ask them? And then that whole, and so far in most of the games that I've run, the games take place in a central location, usually a city I or K have built. And it's kind of like your central hub, and then you go out and do things and you come back to the central hub. And one of the things I really want to do is plan a like long multi-stage travel game. And 3 of the modules I'm developing all have that component to them. You start in one place, you stop at a place along the way, you stop at another place along the way, and then you get to the end place, and then that's where the climax of the story happens. But part of what I want to do that is for 2 reasons. One, depriving characters of long rests changes how they approach combat, which is one of the big complaints about 5e, and that's a whole different discussion we're not going to get into today. But also giving players to sit around a campfire and just chit chat. Some of the best role playing that I have seen in all of the games that I have run happen at the tavern before they go to bed.
Mhm.
They're all just sitting around getting hammered, and then they're like, "Hey, so about that person, so about your cousin that showed up, tell us about that." Or, "Hey, we know you didn't like that noble, but why did you stab them in an alley?" Which we look, the guards are still looking for him.
Uh,
Um,
Field says, I played a short campaign with another player who had a tiefling literally named Mama, who would be the stuff of David's dreams. And Rex says, has beef with his brother. Turns out his brother is running the cattle farm.
yeah, which, and this is a deep cut, but there's an NPC in Ocarina of Time that runs a farm, runs a dairy farm, and he's like gigantic prick, and he's the dude you got to go to in order to start the race, in order to win the race, in order to get the horse. And more than once I've thought to myself, I want to make him the villain of a D&D campaign, because I hate that guy so fucking much that I just want a bunch of overpowered adventurers to beat the stuffing out of him, beat him like a Bob Ross paintbrush.
What you want to be as a GM is the fuzzy side of Velcro so other players can get hooked.
Yes.
And yeah, like, and this is kind of, I talked before about how there are some GMs that I just like jive with, and there are some GMs where I'm like, it's fine. Campaign's fine. It's fine, right? It's not bad. But so much of it is like hooks, right? Hooks with other players, hooks with the world, hooks with people and NPCs reacting to what you do. And again, this is part of why I love, like, my ideal players are people who are like me. They are obsessed with it. They are trying to figure out backstories and connections. They are conspiracy boarding. They are, looking for these ideas, because then I can go like, okay, well, here's what I had planned. Here's all my cool stuff. How much of it am I going to change to match what they've come up with? Because come up with some good stuff. And even if I don't use it to make it canon, I'm going to use it to complicate everything. I'm going to use it as red herrings. I'm going to use it as, you thought this would work, but it just got you in further trouble. Like, I want to reward and punish my players for being awesome. Because as I've long said, my job as a GM is to make you a hero, and that means I have to make the journey to get there as difficult as possible.
Yes, and it also means that you have to be the villain. And again, to be clear, if I build a villain, that is not me. There are some writers, there's some creators where they can't help but put themselves into all their works. I am not that guy. If you see a villain, it's because I hate that guy, which is why I have a deep concern that all of my villains seem very samey, because they all share a couple of things. They're all overinflated, egotistical assholes who are also a little incompetent, and also have a bunch of like unearned power and confidence. Because I hate those people. I hate those people so much. And it hasn't been in any of the games that Kay has played in, but there's a dude that I hated in real life so much that in multiple short stories and in at least one campaign I ran, it was just him. It was just like, I snipped him out of real life and stuck him in this thing because I needed somebody to put him in his place. Because
yes,
I
definitely
did not. Oh yeah, definitely billionaires. Because I did not fist fight him in real life when I had the chance, and I really should have. One of the, I have very
You gotta
few
get back on
like
topic.
major regrets. But boy, anyway,
Do you have thoughts on getting people to roleplay, David?
Yes. Yeah. And again, it boils down to communication. And Kay brought up like getting your players to talk to each other. And one of the important things to focus on is not just getting your players to interact with your world, either by having them describe someone or having them give you backstory and give them characters in their lives, but also figuring out how to get them to interact with each other. Like I have a moderately strict no PvP rule in the games that I run, just because every time I've seen it run outside of like major professional productions, it's always gotten personal, it's always gotten messy, and I have enough drama in my life as is. I don't need that
It
at
is
my
easy
table.
enough for any TTRPG group to dissolve into drama.
Right. So why would I just invite that bullshit into my life? But getting getting players not to just role play with you via your NPCs, but getting them to role play with each other is also really essential, because I have seen games where all the players are, animated and interacting, but none of them interact with one another. And it makes you think, did something happen? Where like, were they at a party and then like a big old slap fight broke out? Like what happened here? Because they're interacting with the story and with the NPCs, but never with each other. And that's weird.
David knows. A couple people in chat are gonna laugh. I have been in a game where everyone was great at role playing, except the one person who would only role play with the GM. Ooh, do you feel it? Yeah, darn theater kids. I also say like getting people to role play. So if you play Godplane, you get told you will have character spotlights. There will be points when the entire focus is on you. You don't have to fight to get your character attention. And again, this is a streamer kid problem by and large, right? You will have time for your narrative beats, for your character. This is carved out. This is part of the game. In longer, more free-flowing campaigns, you often kind of do, especially if you're at a table of bigger personalities, you often do kind of have to carve out space for your character. And I have definitely been at tables and in games where the GM is like, it is time for this character to step up. And to a certain extent, I think this is what happened in Campaign 3. At the fight, when we all stopped watching Campaign 3, because everyone I know who stopped watching Campaign 3 stopped at about the same point, which is when it should have been an almost TPK. Almost everyone should have died. And very clearly, Matt was like, this character, this is your moment, step up, embrace this, it is time for you to do your thing. And the player was like, we're not there yet. And I have been at tables where the GM is like, okay, character, it is time, like it is time for you to step up and do your thing. Here is your opportunity. I have set you up. And the player either panics or doesn't want to, so it is good to talk to your players of like, hey, your character has been spiraling, or someone really needs to step up and do this. I think it should be you. Are you or like even just, hey, so-and-so, you're going to have a major moment tonight. Just be ready. Just be ready. Because if someone turns around and said, like, I had a conversation with the GM where they were like, yeah, by this episode, we need you to be ready to do this because your character, like, this is your last chance to do that thing. And I'm like, well, my character isn't there yet, and I don't necessarily want to do that thing ever. And the GM didn't listen and went ahead. And it became a whole awkward thing. We worked it out. It was all good in the end, but like, you have to have these talks and you have to listen when people are maybe saying like, I've been in a game where I was ready to roleplay and I got to the table and everyone was like, I've had a bad day. I just want to fight something. Can we just have a fight? And I'm like, I don't just want to roll dice, punch people day, but I'm the minority here. So we're going to go along with it. So, all that, and it also allowed me to set my expectation of it's not going to be a fun game for Kay. It's not going to be a fun roleplay day. It's going to be a grungy combat day. Cool, I can set that expectation and still look like I'm having a heck ton of fun. Yes. Yes, that table that Dave was describing sounds like a video of those hairless cats slap fighting each other. I hope someone makes you the BBEG of a TTRPG campaign, a new curse from Lurking Writer. Retiring a character is possible and okay. Yes. Sometimes a character isn't working with the party, isn't working with the story, isn't working with your brain anymore. It's just how it is.
Sometimes your character has come to the end of their story. Sometimes, the resolution is made. Sometimes they've found their long lost sibling, and they're like, yeah, the world needs to be saved, but that's not like what I'm here for. I was here to find them, and I found them, and now I'm going to go live with them, and that's perfectly fine. Um, and as a GM specifically, you have to be open and understanding to that, and not insisting on trying to drag a character into a story they don't want to be a part of. And this circles back to like the level 1 rogue brooding in the corner of a tavern problem. Is you know you you know you if said rogue doesn't want to be there, they don't gotta be there. Ball up that character sheet, throw it in the garbage, and bring back a character that wants to go on the adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, like, yeah, as and here's a problem, because I'd argue that out of everyone in a D&D group, everybody in the tabletop group, the person who does the most work is the GM, because they got to build the world. They don't have to build one character, they have to build dozens of characters. When we restarted our home game, just getting recaps from players, I realized that dozens of characters. In nothing I've ever done have I made that many characters. But there are times where you'll build a world and invest all this time and energy into it, and in some cases money into it, and then you get done telling that story, and then you got to be like, well, we're done with this world. Like, I'd argue one of the main flaws of Star Wars for like 30 years is that the entire universe that was built around it was just about this one character, and I'm really sick of hearing about that guy, and maybe we can tell other stories.
Yes. That is bringing us to the end of our time here. Chat, if you have any final thoughts on role playing, how to get people to role play, how to get people to role play as a GM, how to get your fellow players to GM as a player, now is the time to shout those out. And yes, why would you brood in public? That's what eaves and rooftops are for. Get Batman.
Yeah.
R2D2 gets too much screen time. There, Rex said it.
Listen, Rex. You and I, R2D2 is my favorite character in the entire Star Wars series. And you can't tell me that R2 isn't swearing his ass off.
Oh, yeah.
R2 is the most foul-mouthed creature in the entire Star Wars universe, and I am here for it. I need more R2. My problem is all the other droids that they come up with to try to replace R2, and it's like, no, R2D2 is one of one.
They did. They had to beep his every line. Caves, ice fortresses, barn lofts, yeah, all the places everyone wants to go. That's where you brood. So, as we are wrapping up, hold on, that was 3 days ago. That was not today. We've had so much heckin' happen. Thank you. What is this? 3 days ago? No, here we go. 3 days ago, 1 hour ago. Thank you, Matt, for the raid. Thank you for bringing folks in. Nick, thank you so much for the resub. 6 months, you are incredible. Rex, 41 months, thank you for the resub. Thank you, Metalamia, for the bits. 269. That's so nice of you. It's so nice of you. And I know you did that just to frazzle David. And I appreciate it. I wanted to make sure we called out the 269. That's the very important number there. Lurking Writer, thank you for the 5 gift subs. Spinnerax, thank you for the 5 gift subs. We had a level 4 hype train. We've had like 15 viewers this whole time, which is really quite a lot for us. So thank you all so much for giving us such a strong start to 2026. I so appreciate you all. We are going to be back next week. Next week, we are going to be talking with the urban bohemian themselves. Brian Gray is going to be our guest. I am so excited to have them on. I know we've discussed a couple different things that we might talk about. Han is Chewbacca's dog. Yeah, I buy this. I am excited to find out exactly what Brian has decided they want to talk about. And we will be back then with all of the good times. We're going to find someone to raid. This coming up tomorrow, a new episode of the Emergency Power Podcast comes out. That is the Starfinder 1E adventure that I am lucky enough to have been a part of. Stuff's getting good. It's a war across all of the packed worlds. That's threatening not just all of space, but the multiverse, which obviously is awesome. And that's kind of all we have right now until next week when we are back doing this with Brian. Yes, an absolute delight. Herb is great. We are very excited. I have to get back to both Matt and DC, and then we also have to go. There's more guests we have to schedule. It's just, as we all know, it was last year was a year, and thus far I had to check 6 days in, and it's already been a year. But we will get there. Thank you all so much for sticking with us. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for making us laugh and putting us in our feels and all of the puns. I will always appreciate all of the puns, even more so because they hurt David. Brings me joy.
Yes. Saturday at 11 Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. I believe that's 7 p.m. British time, whatever that time zone is called. I'm sure there's a word for it that I do not recall. But yeah, more South of Midnight, probably the end of South of Midnight. And then there are a couple of games that I have coming up, and it depends on who is in attendance, which game I will play.
And those of you who have not been annoyed by my Twitter posts, the Animal Crossing update comes out on the 15th. So there's gonna be some Animal Crossing streaming. I just need my life to calm down enough to where I can, colonizer central time. I'm using that on Jacob. David, who the heck is you and what the heck has we been doing here?
I am excited to get to the end of South of Midnight. I am also really glad I got to spend yet another Tuesday with y'all. But hi, I'm David, and this was and will be the Chaotic Wholesome Tuesday Table Talk Show, where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to get dramatically sidetracked when you were supposed to be the person to keep you on track, how to be a better person, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everybody can have a good time.
And yes, I am Kay. I'm here doing this. I do other things a lot of the time, but hashtag not right now. But the year is young, and we will get back into the swing of it. We have plans, but I said that last year too, so we'll see. Thank you all. You are wonderful. As always, be kind to yourself, be excellent to others. If you have time, check out the Emergency Power Podcast. I love that story. And I will see you all next time. Bye, y'all.